Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of the Good Ace Attorney Chronicles. Last episode, we just accused Courtney Syph, we just already did the jurors' contentions and everything like that. And now we're gonna summon Madame Two spells because of the wax thing. And let's continue. Whew. Make sure you guys like and subscribe my videos. The closer we get to 1,000 subs, the better, you know? Ah, the Knight Adam himself. Oh, have you been watching from the gallery, Mr. Sholmes? I've been on the edge of my seat the entire time. Courtroom trials are fascinating affairs, as a spectator at least. I'm glad you've been enjoying yourself. I had to ask. What on earth is going on? It makes no sense. What's Professor business all about? He doesn't look like any professor I met before. What even is he? Ah, of course. About that. You were in Germany 10 years ago, right? Ah, yes, Professor. I discovered he was the one who had been adopted. A sense of foreboding stirred within me. But who knew the monster would come knocking at your door? My heartfelt sympathies. Ah, ha, 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 ha. As it turns out, as Lord Von Zeeks is even more intimately tied to this case than any of us realize, isn't he? Yes, how true. His great friend, well, from university in the docks. And now Waxwork, the killer who took his esteemed brother's life, to make an appearance too. Imagine the shrewd Mr. Reaper failed to foresee that kick in the teeth. An extraordinary move on your part, my dear fellow, to throw in that front of the man. Make it sound so deliberate. Can't help but feeling that this professor case is really very puzzling. Oh yes, in what particular matter? Well, there's Mr. Drebber, Dr. Syph, and Lord Von Zeeks. It seems that everybody in the trial is linked to the case somehow. Yes! In fact, I alone not a member of the news set. Though that leaves me as an empty seat, all alone with no intersection to any other. Excuse me? Oh no. Dr. Syph? Ah, Miss Dr. Courtney Syph, niece Stevens. Good day to you. Hello, Sholmes. How very shrewd of you. And what a particular prey. You requested that 10-year-old autopsy report from Gregson, didn't you? How would you assume such a thing? Because Gregson told me. She's upset. To think it's been 10 years. 10 years in the laboratory. Really, my scalpel. I smell nothing but corpses and disinfectant. Policeman and the jury had a lot to say about you as it happens, Dr. Syph. I have accused you of being complicit in what happened, hoping that you'll take the stand and tell the truth about what really happened. That certainly won't be possible. Lord Von Dix won't be summoning me as a witness. Lord Strong has forbidden it. Huh? Why? Something is up. Lord Strongheart? That Pandora's box you were warned about is the professor's case. Please don't make the mistake of you'll be getting any info about it out of me. But attempting to hide from the truth, that's cowardice. I've always fought crimes in the way I see fit. I have no regrets, not at all. And that's all I came here to say. So, good day to you. Why would Strongheart, object to this? The fuck? Bruh, I agree, that's sus as fuck. Sasuke as hell. Anyway, she mentioned it too, this Pandora's box. Whatever does it all mean? Well, we only got one way to find it. There's really no cause for concern, I assure you, when the trial resumes. The meaning will become all too apparent whether you like it to or not. Huh? Now then, I believe it's almost time. I must make my way back to the public gallery. The edge of my seat awaits. I think maybe you're enjoying yourself a little too much. Ah, yes, one word of warning before I go. If in the course of the trial this afternoon you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. Well, to the better end, do you understand? Do not falter, whatever may come to pass. That's all we can do. Alright, I understand. Thank you. Ah, good. I shall make myself scarce then. I purchased a bar of caramel earlier. I shall be gnawing on that as you gnaw away the truth. What did that warning from Mr. Sholmes really mean, I wonder? Especially the bit about whatever may come to pass. Well, that's a lot of speculation. It's time for the final chapter then. I'm determined to find the truth, no matter what. Anyway. In the name of Her Majesty, the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsel for the defense and prosecution, are you ready and able to continue? The prosecution is ready, my lord. Yes, my lord, the defense is also ready. As the court is aware, the cases under scrutiny began with a damaging incident of the Great Expedition. Here we find ourselves embroiled in the details of a convicted felon who was sent to the gallows a decade ago. This trial has certainly defied all expectation, as it seems to be the fate of all trials in which this Nipponese is involved, my lord. So then, let's begin our exploration of the defense assertion that the Waxwork has been cardinally involved in this matter. Lord Von Zeeks, my lord, are we still awaiting the arrival of Madame Two-Spells? Not at all. She is in the antechamber as we speak, and ready to be summoned. Very well, bring in the witness. At once, my lord. Bailiff, show Madame Two-Spells to the stand. Things are about to become a lot more intense. If Trevor is responsible, then I'm sure he is. It means that he must have had an accomplice in Dr. Scythe. And what connects the pair of them is the waxwork. Yes, the model of the professor. That's the key to the link between these otherwise unrelated individuals. It's a tenuous link, admittedly, but at present it's all we have to go on. State your name and occupation for the court, please. The hell are you doing? What the fuck is that? Is that Shum? My name is Madame Esmeralda Two-Spells. I'm a waxwork artisan and a proprietress of the Madame Two-Spells Museum of Waxwork. You will have to pardon me for working as I testify. My new exhibit must open very soon. Even I can't believe what she is building right now. Oh, so he finally gets a statue, does he? Now there's two of them in the world. Oh my. What expression is she carving onto that face? A number of days ago, a particular waxwork model has been stolen from your museum. Can you confirm this? Oi, that is true. At first, we believed it had been kidnapped. A waxwork model kidnapped? My lord, there was also a demand for ransom money left behind by this culprit. According to what I had been just told outside the courtroom, that was not the true reason. I understand it was utilized as a substitute for the body of a murder victim. At present, there is no more than conjecture proposed by the defense. However, this is the victim in case in question, Mr. Odie Asman. But of course, I know him well. He's a part of my odious personage exhibit. I detest to what is evident, but Mr. Asman does not resemble the professor at all. Yes, but perhaps their faces are very similar. Are you suggesting that we see now the E-masked visage of the professor? I here have the key, but it's strictly forbidden to open the lock. This is absurd. Pardon? I don't know what your face you carved onto your fancy figure behind that mask. But clearly it won't be that of the actual killer. Indeed. The man's identity was never made public after all. The trial took place in a closed court. The proceedings were strictly confidential. The condemned man was summarily executed. His identity remains a closely guarded national secret. There is no possible way that a repository of tawdry exhibits could get its hands on that info. Quel dommage. It would seem that you are unaware of the two spells principles. What principles? The family two spells has always prided itself on sculpting its models a la perfection. Every detail, including the visage, is fashioned with complete fidelity. Et voila, our principles. Here's a well-known legend about the two spells waxworks from time of the French Revolution. A member of the two spells family is said to have been made of a waxwork of the queen who was executed. Wait, that is true. It was a century ago now. I believe that the queen's face was carved into the minutes before following her death, actually at the guillotine site. You are correct. The model is on display still today in the House of Horrors. We two spells will stop at nothing to obtain a faithful replica of our subjects. Dear me, somewhat disturbing tenacity of purpose. This is the only way to obtain a truly lifelike representation of the subject. And it has been my family's secret for generations. Do you mean to say that beneath the mask? Oi, the true visage of the killer is there. This is ludicrous. It's out of the question. The professor spread terror throughout the Great Britain. As a result, the Madame Two-Spell's special exhibit remains extremely popular even today. The killer, emerging from his own grave, is a sight to behold. You should come. I think, madam, it would be beneficial to hear your formal testimony on the matter. You explain every detail of this macabre model and your personal involvement in its creation. With pleasure. Oh boy. Witness testimony. The Professor's Waxwork. The special exhibit in the House of Horrors is based on a rumor that shocked society in London. An impression that the visage was taken directly from the corpse in accordance with the Two Spells family principles. I enlisted the aid of a gravedigger and created a mold for the head of the cemetery just before the interment. I hid myself until he gave me a signal. I was there for a very long time that night. As dawn approached, I was very worried that I could be discovered. I see. That's all we can get. A gravedigger! The man sanctioned this! Oi, I'll do all that is necessary to achieve the true resemblance of my family that is celebrated for. Nobody else knew, only the gravedigger. What harm did it do, huh? So you truly saw it? The face of that monster! Yeah. It's what we are led to believe. Naturally, I was aware at the time that his identity was a secret. But Two Spells would not be Who Spells if we did not insist on the absolute fidelity to our sculptures. I do not believe this. I myself have seen the exhibit at your museum, madam. A truly blood-curdling scene in which the murderer is emerging from his own grave. The scene depicts the subject of many rumors in London 10 years ago. I have a newspaper here from time to time. Special exhibit was based upon the picture in this article. It was the most detailed account of what happened, reported by the witness who saw it. Huh, 10-year-old article. Man rises from the grave. It's far too absurd for words. Is that a new? Hold up. The public absurdity, monsieur. 10-year-old article. Let me see this 10-year-old article. Death rises from the grave. Mr. Drebber's dreadful encounter? The fuck? So what's this? What's this? He witnessed an encounter of 139? What's going on here? This is why I reproduced the scene as carefully as possible in my museum. And it's waxwork from the exhibit that was stolen some days before the incident at the Great Exhibition, wasn't it? That is correct. The professor you see before you here. Most puzzling. Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. This waxwork links directly to Dr. Seif. There has to be some reason for that which hasn't yet to come to light. But I'll find it. I'll get to the bottom of what really happened. I'll prove that Dr. Seif and Drebber were in on this crime together. Professor's waxwork. And that rumor would be... blah blah blah. A 10-year-old tale now. No one a lone Londoner would ever forget. Oh, right. I know what you're talking about, I think. Of course, it couldn't have been anything else. Ah, yes, that story would never disappear. The tale of the condemned killer rising from the dead. That is the central attraction of my house of horrors. The rumor was whispered all over the city. It was like this. It was Lowgate Cemetery, behind the prison, in the dead of night after the excursion of the killer. The interred professor slid back the stone slab covering his tomb and emerged from his grave. A young man who witnessed this felt a scream welling up inside him, but an instant later, he heard an ear-splitting gunshot over his shoulder. The bullet struck the emerging corpse, and he fell motionless once more. The scream finally found its way from the mouth of the young witness, who turned and ran for his life. I see. Did the corpse climbed out of his own grave? And then somebody shot him? Who? Who was it? Nobody knows, even today. But remember, it was just a rumor. Perhaps nothing more than a ghost story. The good people of London, they loved stories like this. This is why in every newspaper across the capital. But was it just a story? Is it? I mean, this is exactly the scene that can be seen today in your museum, isn't it? Oi, the spectral exhibit was modeled for that very illustration. For a while afterwards, the contents of that article were reproduced in every newspaper imaginable. Madam, might I say something? Oh, please go ahead, Madame Monsieur. When something is described as a rumor, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's entirely made up. I believe that often rumors contain elements of the truth. I see that people from the East can be astute to the people of Europe. Can we be sure, for instance, that the professor's execution was successful? It's not possible for the dead to come back to life. Sorry? 10 years ago, I was there in Lowgate Cemetery, after the criminal, known as Professor, was killed by hanging. I took a wax impression from his visage from the corpse just before it was interred. So I can assure you that the man was dead. I see. It would be certainly appear that the condemned man suffered the intended fate. Well, gotta keep pressing more, of course. Is it true that every waxworking museum, then? It is, assuming that the subject is dead, of course. Live subjects have to cooperate in a similar way. I have letters in prison criminals all the time, you know. What sort of letters? When my time comes, please make a waxwork of me. Kamaka. No. My museum is as famous one, sir. To be made into waxwork is an honor. And for some criminals, a symbol of status, even. Because nothing says hardened criminal better than wax. I agree. And thanks to that one killer in particular that my museum has gained such popularity in London. I refer to the star of this special exhibit, of course, the Professor. Whose form you have claimed to have captured by taking an impression from the actual corpse. There are no exceptions to the principles of two spells. I see. I enlisted the aid of the 8th gravedigger and created a mold for the head of the cemetery just before the interment, okay? Oh no! No! Don't go back! Surely that's illegal, isn't it? It would seem that the proprietress of this repository of novelties was blinded by monetary greed. It had nothing to do with money. The man is part of London's criminal history. That's why I had to sculpt him, to record this history. It is the raison d'etre of the Two Spells Museum. I'm speaking all these French terms that I have no idea what they are, but if the man was convicted of closed court and sent for immediate execution, then surely nobody but the members of the judiciary at present know the killer's true identity. I assure you, behind that mask is hidden the true face of the Professor. Do you realize what you're saying? The Professor's identity is a national secret. I understand. And now that the truth behind the special exhibit has been revealed, it must perhaps close. Of course it will, as will your entire museum, if you don't tread carefully, madam. I am trying to speak. It's so hard. It could be a very interesting chapter in the history of my family, I think, don't you? So 10 years ago, on the night of the Professor's execution, you took a wax impression of his face from the corpse. Oi, exactement. I hid myself until he gave me a signal. I was there for a very long time that night. You were there longer than you expected to be? Huh? I had some difficulties in capturing the subject's form correctly. As I removed the mask, the mouth of the cadaver fell open, and I had some problems with the chin. Dare I ask? The man had been dead for a short while already, you see. His muscles were relaxing, consequently his chin would not align itself correctly. Oh dear, what a horrible thought. Under normal circumstances, I would have assistant with me. However, that night, I was alone, and as a consequence, I missed my preferred window of time. What do you mean? When I take the impression of the visage cadaver, stop holding Sholmes thing. I always wait until 3 hours after death. 3 hours after death? Why 3 hours? Is that amount of time significant? Because the rigor mortis. A Wrigley mortis what? Is the name given to a phenomenon that occurs in recently deceased bodies. As a rule, 3 hours post-death, the muscles in the body begin to stiffen. By approximately 10 hours post-death, the entire body is completely rigid and inflexible. And then from that point on, the muscles slowly start to revert to their relaxed state. The effect is often used to estimate the time of death when a body is discovered. Well, that was an educational if slightly scary one. As Madame Monsieur says, rigor mortis commences 3 hours after death and starts in the jaw. I see, so that's why you wait. But before that, the mouth falls open, and it's very difficult to do my work. It's getting hard for me to do my work with all this talk of corpses. I wonder if that info in the court just heard from Madame Tussauds. It's significant. The info about the rigor mortis that you just shared with us, do you mind including in your formal testimony? I believe it could be significant, you see. Of course. I don't mind at all. It's gonna be one of these things where I gotta switch out the testimony. I can't help but feeling that this latest topic, the atmosphere in the courtroom has become extremely grave.
I will send you to Jesus.
Why? Why did you give me a pun? Why? Of all things. Why? Why did you give me a... Alright, for those wondering, I hate puns. Really bad ones. Especially when they're so obvious. And the fact that she fucking made a pun right in front of me is just... It hurts. It hurts. Fuck me, dude. Why? Why did this... Why? Just why did this have to happen? Alright, anyway. Let's continue. This is no time for jokes, Mr. Sato. Madam, kindly amend your testimony as discussed. Bien, sir. Took me a very long time before it was onto the rigor mortis. Rigor mortis. Rigor mortis being the phenomenon you described, whereby the corpse becomes stiff after death. I think you said that it starts at the jaw, about 3 hours post-death, is that right? Oui, c'est ça. Of course, exact duration depends a little on the season. I didn't realize a waxwork artisan would be so well versed in the subject. None. That is only elementary knowledge in the field of legal medicine. Well, I had no idea about it, but maybe I won't admit to my ignorance about forensic science. I could ask my father to give you a very simple primer if you like. No. I think corpses should be your domain. I'm not good with them. Oh dear. I'll do my very best. Discovered? Why's that? You said that dawn was approaching? What was the time of day approximately? Well, I could not say. But when I left the cemetery with my utensils and wax, the morning light had become visible. The execution took place on 17th of June, which had the earliest sunrise of that year. Indeed it did. First light would have been around 4:40 in the morning. That really is early. The fact is I had very little time, so I finished my work in a half hour. Necessary to complete the impression and bury the body before daybreak, of course. If somebody had discovered me there, it would have been a catastrophe, as I had to hurry. Is it me, or does Mr. Sholmes need to be taking shape more quickly now, too? You certainly appear to go extraordinary lengths for your work, madam. I wonder, what has she said particularly significant? Another one, I guess. Madam, these details about how long it took you to complete the sculpture early sunrise, could you include them in your testimony? Believe they may be significant. Of course it would, if you'd like me to. You're quite right, Mr. Naruhodo. It is intriguing. A sunrise at 4 in the morning would absolutely be unimaginable at home, wouldn't it? That's not quite what I meant by significant. Kindly amend your formal testimony then, madam. With pleasure, my lord. I had to finish my work in a half hour before sunrise, then I left as soon as the corpse was interred. Do you have any reason to believe you might be discovered or once the sun came up or something? I paid the gravedigger money to keep my little secret, of course. I feel like we're hearing some illegal stuff right now. But with the morning light, I knew that the warden from the prison would commence his patrol of the area. Couldn't you just pay it off the warden too, then? I had already paid the gravedigger, as I said. You cannot buy silence of everyone, or the secret no longer a secret, huh?
The sunrise is at 4:40 a.m. that day, which means I would have been around 4 when he began sculpting your work.
Boy, that must be correct. That would be when the gravedigger gave me a signal that would come out of hiding. So, that's all I have to go on. What's your feeling, Mr. Naruhodo? For some reason, Dr. Scythe went along with Drebber's plan. Now, if that's really true, then the professor is the only other thing we know of that links the pair of them. So I feel a waxwork must be a clue to this mystery somehow. In that case, we must use this cross-examination to uncover exactly what it means. Otherwise, the jurors are sure to revert their leanings and the trial will be over. I agree, but interestingly, uncovering what the professor has to do with all of this means more to Lord Von Zieks than anyone. That's the impression I'm getting anyway. Yes, as do I. After all, he has a profound connection to Professor as well. I have a bad feeling about this, but it's definitely statement 4 or 5. Rigor mortis. Hmm. 10-year-old article. Let me see here. Wait, what? Midnight? Something is okay. I have a feeling that it has to do with the timing of the corpse, right? After like the body was, you know, was told off. Huh. I'm trying to think. But yeah, I have a feeling it's that one. Oh, come on. Don't do this to me now. Is it 4 or 5? You know what? I have 3 lives left. You know what? Yeah, it has to do with that because it literally says midnight, 17th of June. And then she mentioned 4:40 something. So basically, yeah, I'm gonna put this. Madam Two Spells? I have here an autopsy report that was filed 10 years ago now. It confirms the death of the professor following his execution at the gallows. And, is that a problem? I believe it is, because your testimony and your particular detail in the report completely contradicts one another. Quoi?
Are you going to explain yourself by Nipponi's friend?
Can you stop being racist for 1 second? According to her testimony, Madame Two Spells was creating her wax impression just before dawn, and at the time, rigor mortis had not yet set in. Am I correct so far, madam? You are, yes. As I said, the stiffening of the jaw is first sign of rigor mortis 2 to 3 hours after death. But the man's chin was limp, so he cannot have been dead for a long time. On the other hand, if you look at Dr. Scythe's report, it quite clearly states the following. Death by hanging confirmed at midnight, 17th of June.
No!
If the professor indeed died at midnight that day, and by that time you were sculpting his face, rigor mortis would have already been set in. Oi, yes, you are right. The chin, it would have been completely stiff. In other words, this report is wrong.
Huh? This 10-year-old report is wrong intentionally? No coroner makes mistakes when recording the time of death. The very idea of absurd. I mean, in that case, there's only one possible conclusion. The execution didn't actually take place at the stated time. I'm impossible!
Order! Order! Counsel, this is beyond folly. Not only do you indict the author of the report, Dr. Seif, you also implicate the members of the staff at the Barclay prison where the execution took place.
By her...
Extraordinary.
Not in my day! My learned friend appears to have overlooked one very crucial fact.
What fact?
The professor died that night. Without question.
He did, of course he did. I moved the man's limp jaw with my own hands. There was no... Yes, the professor died that night. But what if he didn't die at the gallows?
Didn't die. Are you insane? What exactly are you suggesting did happen in that case?
It's almost impossible to believe, but explain that link between Dr. Seif and the professor and the one other person of interest. I have evidence to explain exactly what happened that night. Counsel, present evidence at once. Evidence that allegedly explains what really happened on the night of the professor's execution. The camera, right? What have we here?
Before considering the night of the execution, I would strongly advise the defense to concentrate on what is happening right now in this courtroom.
What? Quite the next time you present such a nonsensical article, Counsel. You may find out tonight will be the night of your own execution. Oh, come on! You're telling me the camera is not useful now? Come on! Great, I'm so looking forward to trying again now. I won't let anyone execute you, Naruhodo, not tonight. So it's not that? Is it really the 10-year-old article? What happened that night is written very plainly in this newspaper article. Executed criminal returns in the dead of night at local cemetery.
You're suggesting it was a corpse, coming back from the dead now.
Well, if this article's to be believed, yes. Yes. If the professor, assuming the dead following execution, emerged from his grave, was killed again.
Don't be a fool, that's simply a rumor published by the gutter press.
Can you be certain of that?
Are you serious?
The point is, as this article says, there was a witness to what happened. My word, yes indeed. Masul, the young man who stumbled into the cemetery by chance that night.
Of course there was a witness, the story didn't write itself, obviously the man made it all up.
In any case, this was 10 years ago now, there would surely be no hope in finding him. On the contrary, my lord, you know this witness very well.
Nani?
It's Drebber, isn't it? I was suggesting you'd identify the person in question that you know. Couldn't you have seen this utterly incredible events take place? Do you guys not read the news? Are you guys not reading the newspaper article? I feel like I feel a sudden chill down everyone's spines because I feel like I'm witnessing stupidity. In fact, you could say that he's written right here before my very eyes. You will substantiate your latest claim now then, Counsel. Who's this alleged witness second the scene of the cemetery 10 years ago? It's fucking Drebber, isn't it? Man in question is a Notch Drebber.
Drebber?
The previous witness.
The special exhibit in the House of Horrors at Madame Tussauds Museum of Waxwork recreates that decade-old scene in great detail. A condemned criminal emerging from the grave, and beside the tomb, a young man with a lantern stumbling upon the terrifying sight. And that young man is the 10-year younger and Mr. Notch Drebber. That face, though. Ora, ora, ora! Surely not counsel. Drebber was there, in Lowgate Cemetery. What is all this talk about Mr. Drebber? Is the name significant? Okay, I'm gonna go off topic here. I know, like, the women of these games are pretty hot, but damn, a few of them are pretty hot, including this one as well. So, okay, back to topic here. Of course, Madame Tussauds doesn't know, does she? Yes, it's extremely significant, madam, to your situation as well, in fact. What situation? The theft of the professor's waxwork from your museum some days ago was perpetrated by the very same man. None. But that would mean... Oh no. Madame Tussauds. It would appear that you know the name Notch Drebber. Yep, you do. Oi, yes, I know it. But from a long ago in the past. Nani? Oh my. Good gracious, this is big news. Explain yourself. Tell us everything you know. Yes, of course. We need Drebber here, do we? The story of the young man and the terrible sight of he witnessed in the cemetery 10 years ago was published in every single newspaper in London and throughout Great Britain. However, in all of the articles, the witness was simply described as a certain young man. No details are published about his identity. His name was never revealed. That is, apart from one newspaper. The Daily Circus. It's the paper from which comes from the article I've already shown in the court. You're saying that his full name was only publicized in that article? Goodness me, yes, here it is. The university soon experienced a shocking event as Mr. Notch Drebber, a disciple of the studies of the University of London and a resident of the student dorms. Unbelievable. When I read that article, I went to meet with the man. His discovery of the condemned criminal coming back to life in the cemetery was in the dead of night would make for a perfect exhibit for my House of Horrors, whether it was the truth or not. I see. So you went to meet Mr. Drebber in order to sculpt a waxwork of the man, did you? Exactamente. He was studying science at the University of London in those days. He was just a poor student. I paid him £5 to model for the waxwork. And since that time, it has been in my museum to recreate the scene of the terror from the cemetery. Oh boy. This is huge news. But we need to hear from Drebber himself, right? Obviously. So, 10 years ago, a young man appealed to the public about an extraordinary event he'd witnessed. A criminal who had been put to death re-emerging from his grave in the middle of the night. But the public treated his claim as nothing more than an amusing anecdote that was soon forgotten. 10 years later, the same man steals a waxwork model of the executed criminal, ostensibly to use as a body double for the victim in the case we're discussing here today. Even though the waxwork build is a poor match of the victim, and its face is obscured by a mask. So the question is, why would the man do such a thing? Which brings us to 3 days ago, when the birdcage crashed into Crystal Tower. The birdcage had in fact contained not the body of Mr. Asmund, but that same waxwork. The coroner from Scotland Yard who investigated Dr. Seif would have noticed immediately. And yet, She submitted this autopsy report for the victim, which the court has seen earlier. Why?
Because the waxwork was that of the professor. Is that what you're saying?
Dr. Saif put her name to a document confirming the death of a condemned criminal who was still alive. Criminal whose apparent resurrection was witnessed by Mr. Drebber. But that misconduct was a deadly secret the coroner would do anything to protect. Ah. She didn't want to let the public know that the corpse was alive for a while. Which is precisely why Mr. Drebber used that particular waxwork as the body double. Gah! My lord, this court must summon Dr. Saif to the stand. The defense is determined to find out exactly how the coroner and Mr. Drebber are connected. Yeah. But according to the missive I received this morning by the prosecutor's office, Dr. Saif is unable to participate in these proceedings. Is that not the case? It's because frickin' Strongheart doesn't want me to bring her. She told us herself, didn't she? Lord Von Zieks won't be summoning me as a witness. This Lord Strongheart has forbidden it. Lord Strongheart? The Pandora's box you were warned about is the professor's case. But please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any info about it out of me. Something happened on the night of that killer's execution 10 years ago, and surely nobody would want to get to the bottom of that more than Lord Von Zieks.
The prosecution calls for its instructions that the missive to be scrapped.
Huh? Nani?
But Lord Von Zieks, the missive was issued from the Lord Chief Justice's office. Fuck Lord Chief Justice's office, Strongheart. We are trying to finish a case. The assigned prosecutor has the final say in the policy in any particular trial. In other words, me.
Yes.
Let Janot Drebber and Dr. Saif both take the stand together.
Huh? Ora! Very well, I will uphold your request. Bailiff said poena to with some immediate effect addressed to Dr. Saif of the forensic investigation team. The woman is compared to attend on Her Majesty's orders. Alrighty then. Not Drebber and Dr. Saif. If they weren't colluding with one another, this crime could have never been committed. I'm just a stone's throw away. I can feel it. The truth behind all this is about to come out. Well, those two. And Madame Two Spells is still here. This is gonna be interesting.
Thank you for your attendance at such a short notice, Dr. Saif.
I'm disappointed in you, Lord Von Zieks. You completely betrayed the agreed policy of both Scotland Yard and Prosecutor. Fuck those two! Scotland Yard, Prosecutor's Office, I don't give a shit. We need to figure out the truth as of right now.
Betrayal is not in my nature as long as the truth isn't compromised. If it is, there's even a hint of wrongdoing, then no matter whom it concerns or disgruntles, I will pursue the matter to the bitter end, as would any prosecutor worth his salt.
Mr. Drebber, you took the victim's life by means of a machine that you constructed in your workshop. And Dr. Saif, as the investigation coroner, you were the first on the scene to examine the victim's body. Is the belief or the defense that you collaborated with each other with both complicit in this crime? And where's your evidence? At present, we have no definitive evidence, but we do have a very significant clue. What are you talking about? I'm talking about, of course, the waxwork. This model killer known as the Professor, who was sentenced to death 10 years ago. You don't need to tell me. I witnessed that man's execution with my own eyes. I officially pronounced him dead. That remains to be seen. Is that so? According to the newspaper reports from the time, on the night following his execution, the killer came back to life. Don't waste my time. As the sole witness to the mysterious event, was you, Mr. Drebber, wasn't it? If what you saw in the graveyard that night 10 years ago was some chilling fiction, but reality, it would make you privy to a very great secret of Dr. Sife's. A secret so profound, it would compel the coroner to agree to collaborate with your evil scheme, in fact. Mr. Drebber, tell the court, tell everyone the truth of what you saw that night in the Lowgate Cemetery.
So he was the student who saw it.
You can see the resemblance, actually, can't you? The Madame Two-Spills, I mean.
Surely he's not going to claim that what he really saw, especially not after all these years. He was a research student at the University of London, was he?
And a bit too clever for his own good, if you ask me. Yeah. Oh no. What an interesting twist. Huh? When at the time, not one person would take me seriously. And yet now here we are 10 years later, and suddenly my story matters now, is it? In a court of law, too. Very well then, everyone so wishes. Let's be frank, I'll tell you the truth of what happened that night, for what it's worth. Safe? So, Mr. Drebber, your testimony, please, about the events of that night 10 years ago. You will tell the court exactly what you stumbled across in Lowgate Cemetery. Yes, of course, as you wish. Okay, I believe this is a good time to end off today's episode. Witness testimony. Alright, good. We're gonna end off today's episode on a high note. So next time on the Good Ace Attorney Chronicles, we're gonna be continuing this trial, part 4 of the Old Bailey, and get a testimony from Enoch Drebber. I'll see you guys all next time.